My name is Antonia Banyard, and my novel is called Never Going Back. It's a novel about a reunion in Nelson. It's a group of friends who are in their late 20s who have fallen out of touch in the 10 years since they've graduated from high school. They come back to Nelson for the memorial of a death, and they have to face things from the past. I was born in South Africa. And then we moved to Zambia when I was 2. My mother's family is from Zambia and is still based there. And then when I was 4, we came over to Canada. So I moved to Creston when I was 4. And then we moved to Nelson when I was 6. I think I was always the outsider. I had an accent until I was in my teens, and then I kind of purged it from my vocabulary. So I was always that kind of oddball. I was the new kid in my grade. I came to Nelson when I was 6, and I was the new kid until grade 6, because there were no other new kids. When I first sat down to write pieces that kind of became Never Going Back, I was thinking of writing about a group of friends and who have grown up together, and the layers that friendship and relationship take when people have known each other for many years, and how that kind of changes and morphs into different things. And that was my central idea. But because I've spent 10 years writing the novel, lots of other ideas came in there. I'm a fan of Jack Hodgins, so I had a vague sense of the island mind that he was mapping out with his fiction. I knew that my experience of life in the interior was different than the coastal or urban culture that surrounded me. So was there a Kootenay mind? And how to articulate this in a story? How are we different? Are we isolated? Are we hemmed in by the limits of our horizons? Are we rugged and hardy? Do our thoughts run along one valley, then jog over to the next? Maybe, but I don't think so. I think our Kootenay character is more subtle than that, and more complicated. I think it's a result of many, many influences, and there are many, many Kootenay characters. I wanted to capture them all. The first draft of the novel alternated between 8 different voices or focal characters. It was a mess. I thought, the detail of observation and the beautiful language and the quirky little details and characters were what made fiction interesting. But those need to be there, but there also needs to be just that basic kind of Hollywood plot or something to get through. The secrets part, that was part of kind of creating narrative tension. Was, you have to find out, okay, what's underneath it, and there are a lot of secrets between friends that you discover as you get older. You either acknowledge secrets that you're keeping from other people, or you find out things that happened back in your teens or whatever that your friends will tell you about or something like that. But in terms of a narrative device, it is something that can kind of pull a reader through, is to have a secret that is revealed, or something that the reader wants to find out, okay, what's going on there. I'm going to read one of the few flashback scenes in the novel. This is a passage that came from my memories of a commune that used to be in the Slocan Valley. The members would drive up and down Baker Street in trucks that had wooden tent placards in the back with dire biblical passages painted on them. We used to call them the Jesus Freaks. My father-in-law called them the 40 Roomers because they all lived in one big house. And our friend, who was a member, said they named themselves Bloodbath. There are also some references to the changes that were in this passage. There are some references to the changes that were happening in Nelson in the mid-1980s. I finally narrowed my 8 voices down to 3. So this section is in the voice of Siobhan. With a confident toss of her head, she closed her eyes and stuck out a thumb. Held it out there, thought brave, confident thoughts. A cold wind blew over her knees laid bare by the birthday pinafore. She heard gears shift down and tires crunch on gravel. A battered white pickup pulled over just behind her. A tent of plywood filled the back box, and it was painted white with block letters in black. poverty and shame shall be to him that refuseth instruction. It is abomination to fools to depart from the devil. A companion of fools shall be destroyed. Evil pursueth sinners, but to the righteous good shall be repaid. Proverbs 13:18-21. Oh no, the Jesus freaks. They lived somewhere out in the Slocan Valley, but were a common sight around town. They drove their trucks of warning slowly up and down the main street every day. They were even known to shop in the grocery store, though she'd never seen them up close herself. The young guy in the truck waved at her, smiling, while a woman opened the door, then scooted over to the middle of the bench seat. Jesus freaks were harmless, right? Siobhan debated this as she walked towards the truck. They were Christians, after all, weren't they? Hop in, little sister, the woman said, a dreamy expression on her face. Where is your journey leading you? Love thy neighbor, judge not, lest ye be judged. Right? Right? She slid into the seat. Vancouver, Siobhan said. She tugged on the seat belt, but it did not budge, so she just clung to it. That's a long way, girl. We're going as far as Bonington. Close enough. I have a hard time figuring out what I want my readers to take away from it. I honestly wanted them to find it funny, even though there's a very serious element to it, and there's lots of painful things in it. But I also saw a lot of funny things in it too. So I hope readers are amused. I hope it makes some readers think back maybe onto their own childhood or their own teenagerhood or their youth, and reflect back on that, because I think by processing those years you can move on. And I'm not saying I'm wanting to like be some kind of therapist for readers or anything. That's absurd, but that's kind of the process I went through, is sort of going through all of that myself. So, I mean, if it helps any readers to look back on the past, then that's great.